Imagine a place so high in the Himalayas, it's almost touching the sky. A place where a small, frozen lake holds a chilling secret. This is Roopkund Lake, nestled over 16,000 feet above sea level. For most of the year, it's a silent, icy world. But when the summer sun arrives and the ice begins to melt, a truly horrifying sight emerges from the depths. Hundreds upon hundreds of human skeletons. This macabre discovery was first officially reported by a British forest guard back in the 1940s. Stumbling upon this frozen graveyard, the initial theory was grim but understandable. Perhaps these were the remains of soldiers, casualties from the intense fighting of World War II, lost in a remote high-altitude pass. It seemed plausible. However, as investigators looked closer, a more profound mystery began to unfold. The bones, they just felt different. They were ancient. The story of a recent battle didn't fit. The skeletons were far, far older than any conflict of the 20th century, pushing the timeline of this tragedy back into the distant, forgotten past. The question wasn't just who these people were, but when and how they met such a bizarre end. The mystery of Skeleton Lake had just begun. As researchers began to survey the area, the sheer scale of the horror became apparent. We're not talking about a handful of skeletons. Estimates suggest the remains of at least 500 individuals are scattered in and around the lake's shallow basin. When the ice recedes, some skeletons are found submerged in the crystal-clear water, while others lie exposed on the rocky shores. Chillingly, due to the frigid high-altitude air, some of the remains are remarkably preserved. Fragments of hair, flesh, and even fingernails still cling to the bones, offering a hauntingly personal glimpse into this centuries-old catastrophe. But the most disturbing clue was on the skulls. Many, if not most, were fractured. These weren't the clean cuts of a sword or the shattering impact of a bullet. The injuries were strange, small, round, deep dents, almost as if each person had been struck by a hard, round object directly from above. There were no weapons found nearby, no arrowheads, no signs of a battle or ambush. Just hundreds of people, all with similarly broken heads. What could have caused such a specific and uniform pattern of injury? To find a possible answer, scientists turned to local folklore, which held a terrifying tale. Legend speaks of a pilgrimage to a nearby shrine led by a king and queen. The goddess of the mountain, enraged by their loud celebratory procession, unleashed her fury. She didn't send an army or an avalanche. She sent a storm of hailstones as hard as iron, raining death from the sky upon the entire party. Could this ancient myth hold the key to a real-life mass casualty event? Armed with this legend, scientists began their analysis, and what they found was astonishing. Forensic examination of the bones confirmed the local story in a shocking way. The fractures on the skulls and collarbones were consistent with injuries from massive blunt force trauma delivered from directly above. The pattern of damage perfectly matched what would happen if a person was caught in the open during an extreme hailstorm. The victims weren't attacked by people. They were killed by the weather. They had been pelted to death by hailstones the size of baseballs. To pin down the timeline, carbon dating was employed. The results were astounding. The majority of the victims didn't die in the 20th century, or even the 15th. They died over 1,000 years ago, sometime around the 9th century. This wasn't a single event, but the site of an ancient tragedy. But the revelations didn't stop there. More recent DNA studies in 2019 added another layer of complexity. The tests revealed at least two genetically distinct groups among the dead. The first group was consistent with people of local South Asian ancestry, likely guides or porters familiar with the region. But the second group was a complete surprise. Their DNA traced back to the eastern Mediterranean, possibly from Greece or Crete. These individuals were also, on average, taller than their local counterparts. So, the mystery deepened once more. What were people from the Mediterranean doing on a high-altitude pilgrimage in India over a millennium ago, alongside local villagers? How did these two disparate groups end up together in this remote valley? The leading theory combines all these bizarre clues. It suggests a large group of travelers, pilgrims from afar, and their local guides, were making their way through the treacherous mountain pass. Suddenly, they were caught in a freak-localized storm. Trapped in the open, with nowhere to shelter, they were bombarded by a hailstorm of unprecedented violence. The hail, likely the size of cricket balls, fell with such force that it struck their heads and shoulders, the only parts of their bodies exposed to the sky, causing fatal injuries to hundreds of people almost simultaneously. Their bodies then fell into the lake or lay on its banks. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into incredible mysteries. See you next time.